And then I've got a few more slides that talk more specifically about kind of doing research and doing a dissertation with this, like, because that's like the big thing that distinguishes you from the master's students. Oh, what happened? It was on a minute ago, wasn't it? Oh. Okay, I'm going to stand up. So we do have a real focus on being interdisciplinary. So we really encourage you to do psycholinguistics, work in the psychology department, or sociolinguistics, or computational linguistics. And we also, a lot of the courses that you'll take at the $6,000 and $7,000 level have term projects. And I have seen one student do this where she graduated in 4 years. She actually knew what she wanted to work on. The day she got here, she managed to focus every term project directly on her thesis topic. She was actually the person I mentioned who explored the use of the I pronoun among Japanese children and how they actually use it a little bit more when they're really little. And then as little, 2-year-olds are very, egocentric. And then how that over the next couple of years, how that drops out of the language. And every single term project she did, she focused on that particular problem and was able to incorporate every single project into her dissertation. And it was very impressive. So you can do that. She's the only one I've ever seen. It really made it work. But a lot of people are able to take, maybe have a term project one semester that they can then kind of take on to another level the next semester in one of the courses, and then that may become some kind of dissertation topic. So it's something, so you really want to start thinking about what you're interested in and what kinds of questions you want to explore. Sometimes the term projects just give you an opportunity to decide that, well, no, this isn't what I want to continue doing. Yes, so we encourage loving attention to data, lively discourse with instructors and peers, and so these are the MA requirements, and I go over these just very quickly because we assume you have all these. Sometimes we admit PhD students who have gaps in one or more of these courses, so in which case then we have to talk about how to fulfill those gaps. As far as I know, none of you do.
Yeah, we 3 are auditing diachronic.
Oh, diagrams. Oh, you do. Okay, all right. Oh, you're just going to audit it? You don't have to?
Yeah, we told
Rebecca said that was fine. Okay, whatever Rebecca says is fine. But morphology and syntax, phonetics, phonology, semantics and pragmatics, and diachronics are kind of the 5 basics. So then your PhD requirements are you have to take field methods. You have to take Laura's syntactic analysis class. And then you take 2 of these. And so that depends a lot on what your interests are. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 required courses. Altogether, you're supposed to take 10, 6,000 or 7,000 level courses. So that means you've got 6 electives. So that allows you to really focus on 1 or 2 research areas, and they can. So it's really up to you and your advisor what those courses are, and 3 of them can be outside of linguistics. So that's like if you're doing computational linguistics, that helps. If you're doing psycholinguistics, that helps. So once you've been here 1 semester, then you can look into whether or not you have taken courses at a previous institution that did not, that you haven't already used for another degree that you could transfer in, that you could apply to this degree. Doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen. So that is a petition you have to make to the graduate school. They have their own set of advisors who look over all of that. We give them input, but it's kind of a joint process. It's very tightly regulated. There's another thing you can do, which is you can get certain requirements waived. So if you've had a syntactic analysis course already at a fairly high, fairly in-depth syntactic analysis course, you've looked at Laura's syllabus, it's going to be covering all the same stuff. We can waive that requirement, but then you'll have to take another course in its place. If you transfer credit in, then those credits count, and you don't have to take other courses in their place. Any questions about that? Okay, so I think, yeah, so we've said this. So in addition to the coursework, the 10 courses, the first requirement is called the preliminary exam. You put in your proposal for that. You'll put that proposal in this spring. In fact, it's due by February 15th. So that's soon, actually. That's right at the beginning of the semester. So you need to be, start thinking about it this semester. It does not, it doesn't have to be your dissertation topic. It's not that big a deal. You don't have to commit to your dissertation topic and make sure that you work on that for your prelim. Of course, if you end up doing that, that's fine. That may be quite convenient, but it's not necessary. You pick a particular topic that you're interested in, and you will come up with a reading list of relevant literature. You'll work with your advisor on what that reading list is, the things you want to cover. Typically it's like, actually, Tad, you did a prelim. Why don't you say a little bit about what the topic your prelim was on?
So my prelim paper was about some data analysis. So I noticed that sometimes word order change in a phrase. Let's say in Chinese, verb particle construction, and I collected data, I formed a hypothesis, and I tested the hypothesis using the data. So basically, that's a data analysis paper.
Right, and actually that is now, your synthesis paper is sort of building on the original findings.
Yes, they're related. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that was Chinese, yeah. Chinese for particle construction. And then you turn it in October of your second year. So it's sort of a kind of your summer project. And you're supposed to work on it quite independently. Once you've submitted the proposal and it's been approved by the committee, then you're not supposed to talk to your advisor anymore. And you're really supposed to just do the whole thing yourself. So you're sort of proving to us that you can be an independent researcher. There's also language competence demonstration. There's different ways you can do that. There's the, so your third year, you're supposed to turn in your synthesis paper. So you do the prelim proposal, spring of your first year, you turn it in, fall of your second year, and then a year later, you're supposed to turn in your synthesis paper. And that's supposed to be kind of a more in-depth research endeavor with a much longer reading list and a more specific question that you're asking. And then the next thing is just your proposal defense, and then the dissertation defense. So the prospectus defense and the dissertation defense. We call the synthesis paper and the dissertation prospectus, these two things together, the comprehensive exam for Ph.D. And then you also have to, in addition to your courses, you have to take dissertation hours. You'll all forget this. We'll talk about it again when you get to the proposal stage. And you need a total of 30 dissertation hours. You can take 5 a semester, typically. You can also take 10. You can't take more than 10. And you don't want to take too many before you successfully defend your prospectus, because you can only count 10 that you've taken before you successfully defend your prospectus. And then after you've defended, then usually you take the remaining like 20 after you defend, sometimes 15. or we take a 10, then you have 5 this semester. Okay, so about the interdisciplinary stuff. So there's several certificates you can do, and this is a way to kind of focus your electives and your research area. So the one is the CLASP certificate, Culture, Language, and Social Practice. Another one is the Human Language Technology certificate, which is Computational Linguistics. And then this is the Institute of Cognitive Science certificate. You can actually do both of these. With certificates, we can let the same course count for more than one certificate and also count for a degree. So it's not that hard to do both of these. A lot of the courses for these are 5,000 level courses, so they don't necessarily count towards the Ph.D. So the master's students are more likely to take these, but we certainly have Ph.D. students taking them as well. But you might not want to take 2 of them because, Ph.D. students are here long enough that they can, it's really not in any way a burden to take more than 10 courses. If you're going to be here 10 semesters, that's just 1 course a semester. So there's no reason, if there's something you're interested in and it has a couple 5,000 level courses in it, that's fine. I mean, you can still go ahead and do that. This speaks for itself. The CLASP is very, very interdisciplinary. It brings together a lot of different aspects of linguistics and sociolinguistics and anthropology, bilingualism, language revitalization, language endangerment, and has faculty members who come from just a wide range of departments. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. You probably know a lot more about it than I do. Do you want to say something?
So the class certificate is 6 classes, and there's one, you have to take linguistic anthropology, and you have to take a methods class, but other than that, it's super flexible. I think that those are the 2 that you have to take. There's basically 2 you have to take, and then the rest you can take for whatever makes sense for what you're doing, and Kira approves it, and that's generally not challenging to get those approved. And I did it easily within the master's program just by taking electives that I liked that also happened to be with class, but it was really easy to finish it. And then we also have a kind of research working group where we do lunches once every 2 weeks, and people will present stuff they're working on, or we talk about a new paper or something. I think she was actually coordinating that. And then we have the conference every 2 years, which there's one this fall, which I'm sure you've already gotten emails saying come volunteer for us, which I'll start badgering you more about in the next couple of weeks. And then in future years, if we want to, one of us will be coordinating that conference as well.
Okay, and then the cognitive science one is also has a lot of flexibility. There's kind of, if I remember, 2 required things. One is that you sign up for what's called the topics thing, which is a 1-credit course. You do that 2 semesters, so usually the fall and the spring. And that just means you go to the cognitive science collaborative series, and they have talks almost every week. And you sometimes will, depending on the faculty member who's sort of teaching that class, sometimes they'll have you write up a little paragraph about the talk you went to, or have a discussion afterwards, stuff like that. And then there's also a course which is, I think it's Issues and Methods in Cognitive Science. So it's an interdisciplinary course that talks about kind of methodologies in psychology, methodologies in computer science, methodologies in linguistics. The idea is if you take that course, then it makes it easier to take other graduate courses in, say, psychology if you're in linguistics, because you're sort of more familiar with the terminology and the approach and where they're coming from. So the goal of, and then there are elective courses. Well, then you have to take
Practicum twice.
That's for the joint PhD.
Yeah.
This is just for the certificate. You have to take a couple of there's a set of courses that are listed as kind of interdisciplinary cognitive science courses, and you have to choose 1 or 2 of those, and then you take 1 or 2 other courses. But there's a lot of flexibility. There is also, as Tal brought up, the joint Ph.D. In cognitive science, and that is set up to make it easy for you to do a joint Ph.D. in either, say, linguistics and psychology, or linguistics and sociology, or, well, I don't know about sociology.
I don't think so.
That could be done probably, but maybe it's
I
not.
don't know if it's with
currently
ICS
set up.
necessarily.
Yeah, but, and linguistics and computer science. And so that includes, I think includes the same issues and methods and the same topics classes, and some other, again, interdisciplinary classes. One of the things you have to do is take graduate courses in not just one other department, but 2 other departments, and one of them has to be in another school, like the school of, like the College of Engineering or the College of Education, something like that. And then you take the practicum. And the practicum is actually a great course. We've sort of, linguistics has tried to kind of emulate that in the dissertation discussion group thing. The practicum is you meet once a week for 2 hours with PhD students from other departments, and you take turns talking about your research with a faculty member there. And so you do things like read each other's abstracts and critique them, and edit them, and present, like do a dry run of your proposal defense. It's a great place to do that. And you find that in having to explain what you're doing to somebody from another discipline, you have to make a lot of things explicit that are just kind of taken for granted in linguistics, but it really helps you think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. So it's, oh, and also, I'm sorry, I should have said linguistics and cognitive neuroscience. So there's a strong cognitive neuroscience program. So that's another popular approach. Oh, and then speech, language, and hearing sciences is another one. And then the HLT certificate. You take an introductory programming course. You take the 5832 as the natural language processing class that's cross-listed. A lot of these interdisciplinary courses are cross-listed, so you can take them as a linguistics course if you want to, if you need a linguistics credit, or if for the certificate you need a credit in another department, you can take them as a computer science course. And then you take another computer science graduate course, and there's a set of some you can choose from. And then you need 2 linguistics classes, but you're taking, syntax anyway, you're taking, at least probably a semantics course or a phonology course anyway, so this would just automatically count.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Do you always have to take the introductory programming course, or can that also be?
That can be waived. And if it is, then you take another computer science course instead. So there are lots of different labs here in the department. The class lab, obviously. Rebecca has a phonetics lab. This is for the computational language and education research, and classic is for the new professional masters in computational linguistics, analytics, search, and informatics. So we have kind of the clear classic lab, which is over in Fleming. Fleming is actually that way. Is the old law school. So if you know where Baseline and Broadway is, it's very close to that intersection. So engineering is a half a mile from here. Fleming is a little bit further. So bicycles are good things. Then Narasimhan has the Language Cognition and Development Lab, the Psycholinguistics Lab. That's on the same, right next to their lab. So we're all on the same part of the second floor of Fleming. And then the Center for the Study of Indigenous Languages is downstairs right below where these 2 labs are. And then the African Languages Lab is right next to it. So we would really like you to graduate within 6 years. Like I said, it can be done in 4, it's possible. People do also more, that's unusual. 5 happens a little more often. 6 is very doable. I mean, if The graduate school will start to complain if you've been here more than 6 years. You'll have to start writing petitions and asking for one more semester, please. Oh, one more semester, please. Oh, one more semester, please. But if you're close to graduating, then we're not going to kick you out. But you probably all noticed your offer letters talked about 10 semesters of support. So you want to take that into consideration too. So just kind of to try to summarize this. So the first couple years, you try to get all your coursework out of the way, and you do the prelim. You submit the proposal in the spring. You submit the final document in the fall. Finish up the coursework. You start working on your synthesis proposal in the spring after you've submitted the prelim, so that you can submit that in the fall, a year later, the fall of your third year. And this is, hopefully been getting you on the road to what the topic that you're going to be using for your dissertation. And so you want to defend your prospectus in that fourth year. You want to defend the dissertation in the fifth year. So that'll work, right? No problem. Okay, so you start with an advisor. I think you probably all right now already have some ideas about who your advisor is. You're Rebecca. I don't know who your advisor is. Probably Andy, right? I guess maybe me or Mons.
I'm in here.
Kira, right? And you're with Kira.
Maybe Chase. Figure that out.
And Chase, yeah, right, yeah. So that's very good. Okay, that's the first step. Okay, you'll want to pick 2 more faculty members, sometime sometime between this coming spring and next fall. And that's your sort of committee that helps you get through, you need that committee, you have to have that committee for the synthesis paper. Okay, so for the prelim, you just kind of need your advisor. And there's a separate prelim committee that will review the prelim. But by the time you get to the synthesis paper, then your committee of 3 people reviews the synthesis paper. And then for the doctoral committee, which you need in time for your prospectus, you have to have 2 more people. So one of them should be outside linguistics. And I actually I encourage my students to have the 5th member be from someone from another campus, somebody from outside, just to bring in that new perspective. Okay, so let's stop for a minute here. So this is all the nuts and bolts. So do you have questions about just the process, what the expectations are? Any of the, yes?
Is there a maximum number of dissertation credit hours you can take?
Oh,
Or you just kind of
not that I know of.
pick and choose whatever makes sense that semester?
Yeah. Oh, you mean per semester? 10 is the
10, but I
maximum
mean like
per semester.
overall, it's not like 30.
No, people have taken 40 because if they took 20 and then if they thought they were going to defend, they kept thinking they were going to defend their prospectus and they kept putting it off another semester and kept taking dissertation hours. If they end up with 20 before the prospectus, then they have to take another 20.
Mm-hmm. So that's okay. Something like that.
Yeah, that's okay. There's no problem with that. It does cost money. Okay, it's tuition money, so it's so you're a 25% TA will cover 5 dissertation hours. You need a 33% won't cover 10.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to take any more than you have to, because you don't want to be paying out of pocket for those extra dissertation hours if your TA-ship isn't covering everything that you need your last semester, kind of thing. So yeah, it takes a certain amount of planning. I mean, it can be done in a quite straightforward way, but you do have to kind of bear it in mind. Yes?
For the 3 members of the advisory committee, has to be all from the linguistic department?
They usually are, but no, they don't have to be, and especially if you're doing something interdisciplinary, then you might want to have at least one of them from, psychology, I guess anthropology maybe.
Right.
Yeah. I think you can only have one that's not from the linguistics department on the advisory committee.
So the advisory committee is different from the doctoral.
Well, typically the doctoral committee subsumes the advisory committee. You have those same 3 people plus 2 more.
Okay.
But not always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you might, you might shift your research focus between the synthesis and the doctoral thing, or someone might be on sabbatical, or you might have been really unhappy with the way the questions they asked you, and you just might want to replace them, and that's your privilege. So,
So you don't have to petition if you want to change your committee?
oh no, you do have to let the person know. There are tactful ways to handle that. I'd be happy to consult with me.
I'm not necessarily interested in that, but I just,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard you have to petition if you want to change any of your advisor. And you have to petition if you want to change your advisor.
No, we don't have official petitions. I think we're smaller. It's
Yeah.
sort of more informal. And we're also pretty hang loose about, like, we're happy to co-advise with somebody else, or, if a student, decides they are, to shift from one, I mean, we have students, not a lot, but 1 or 2 regularly that kind of shift from one advisor to another one, and, we're not too bothered. So.
So one question, so just to clarify, yes, we have like a 10 semester of support,
Mhm.
which also means like TA-ship or GPTI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we have to take 10 courses, which also mean like 2 courses per semester. So
Well,
that
2
means-
courses per semester would be 20.
20, okay, yeah, okay.
So that's why I said.
Okay,
you
so
have-
I think I correctly
that-
did it
Yeah,
wrong.
that's why you have plenty of flexibility.
Right, okay, I
Yeah.
see.
Although
Yes.
you do want, like, the last sort of 2 years, you want to be doing mostly dissertation hours. So you really want to take most of your courses the first 3 years, but that's still 2 courses a semester for 3 years would be 12. And, even though you're a TA, once you've kind of gotten the TA thing down a little bit better, you could take 3 courses a semester if there was something you were really interested in. So, I mean, I think, and if you've got say you're a 50% GPTI, you can take 9 credits. That will cover the 9 credit hours, so you can take 3 courses that semester. And if you've saved like a really easy course for that semester, then you could take something, that you're just interested in, that you want to take as well. So it usually and then even when you're doing the dissertation hours, you can also, let me think how that, if you've got a 33% appointment is 6 credit hours. Yeah, so it's really just 2 courses. Yeah. So there's some flexibility. There's not a vast amount of flexibility. Okay, any other questions on this? All right, so let's talk a little bit more about just this whole research thing. Okay, so you have to choose a topic. But the topic, the questions you're interested in, the mysteries that you want to explore and you want to solve are like way too big for a particular, for a single dissertation. So you have to narrow it down to something that's sort of tractable. And then you have to figure out what specific experiments and analyses and things like that that you're going to do in order to explore that particular question. But then, and this is, I kind of emphasize this because this is something that really bit me. I got bitten by when I was doing my dissertation. After you've sort of tunneled down into the details of this thing, then you have to tell people what you've done and why you've done it. So you have to go back to that big picture, and you've got to situate everything with respect to that big picture, and that's more challenging than you might think. So you want to choose your topic. Or maybe, if you're really passionate about something, your topic chooses you, okay? So this is the Holy Grail, or searching for the Holy Grail. So you want to, and I can't emphasize this enough, that you really want to find out what you care about the most, what you're the most passionate about, what you find endlessly fascinating. And there are reasons for that. So who knows what, here's a few questions, but I have no idea what questions motivate you the most. You all seem to already be kind of, in an area. Okay, so that's great, that's wonderful. But you still need to come to grips with some specific questions within that area. So this is kind of what this first couple of years and the prelim and everything lets you do, is sort of explore different questions. And also, the other thing that's really important is, let me talk about that. Is the methodology you're going to use. So you find the big question you're interested in, and then you have to narrow it down to something that's graspable, that people can comprehend. And this is what you experiment with in your term projects and things like that. You've got some questions you're interested in. So you go find out in the literature, what are people saying about this particular question? And you look at, what's their methodology? What are their conclusions? And you look for something that you disagree with, where you think they're wrong, okay? They've left out the most important part, or you look at their data and you come to a different conclusion than they came to, which you may have already seen that somewhere. But something that, and again, you want to feel this in your gut. You want to read this paper and go, no, they can't say that. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to correct that. I'm going to publish a paper that says it right. So I'm not doing any examples. I had an example before, but wait, this is almost the same thing. Yeah, okay. All right, this is the same thing. Okay, so once you get focused on this particular question, it will astonish you how long it takes you to be able to have conclusive evidence that you can then write a paper about and try to get published that will contradict what this other person said. And this is where the methodology becomes really important. And I actually started in graduate school in psychology. I was at the University of Texas. I'd done my philosophy undergraduate, which of course can't get you a job. And I knew I was interested in cognition. This was before the term cognitive science had even been coined. And I loved the computer. I loved the idea of trying to simulate thinking on the computer. I thought that was really cool. And I started graduate school in psychology because that's where you can do cognitive psychology, right? What's wrong with that? And I took this class where we were doing experiments about memory. And all of it, so these and as a graduate student, you help run the experiments. And so all of these undergraduates would come in and they'd sit down at a terminal and they would see how long they could memorize, how well they could memorize nonsense syllables. And I was like, what is that telling us about memory? So I was really not happy with the method, with the sort of assumptions behind the experiment to start off with. But the other thing was, to do these psychology experiments, you spend a whole day just shepherding these students into the lab and making sure that the equipment all works, and then you leave them there, and then you go back out, and you wait 10 minutes, and then you go back in and get them, and then you go get another student. And I was like, 2 days of that, and I could have killed myself. So in the meanwhile, I'm taking computer science classes, and so now you have to write programs to try to simulate things, and that can take just as long, but when the program doesn't work, you're debugging it. And for me, that was more interesting. I was much happier sitting there trying to debug a program than I was shepherding the students in and out of those experiments. So that methodology was something I was more comfortable with, and I was more willing to spend a lot of time on it. And that was a good thing, because I rewrote my program for my dissertation 3 times over a 3-year period. Okay, so this, you know, you will do your first set of experiments or your first, you know, whatever, and it won't work. It won't work the way you thought it would, no matter what methodology it is. And you will have to go back and rethink and come up with a new set of experiments or a new set of stimuli or a different, you know, machine learning approach or whatever, okay, or new features, and try it again, and probably try it again. And it takes forever. And if you aren't really passionate about what you're doing in the first place, and if you're not comfortable with the methodology and find it sort of interesting in and of its own right, you'll be miserable. You'll be miserable anyway, but you'll be even more miserable. And you will face all kinds of disasters along the way, like your backpack getting stolen, or the dissertation getting sunk when the ship sinks, or I mean, I was working on a project at the University of Texas, and it was automatic pattern recognition of chromosomes. So we had these visual images of chromosomes that were kind of black and white, sort of these white worms with black bands across them, and we were trying to get the computer to automatically, you know, put 2 of them side by side and try to see whether or not they were the same. Were they similar enough that these might be the same chromosomes? And so it was all about, you know, finding the edges of the black bands and measuring how big, long they were, and then doing the same thing on the other side and seeing if the lengths compared. This was all in Fortran. And there was a disk crash, and we lost the whole thing. Everything was wiped out, you know. So just, you know, it happens. Now, but by then, the professor I was working with and I had already kind of figured out that the approach we were using wasn't really getting us what we wanted, and it was sort of a good excuse to rewrite it in a different way, so it wasn't all that bad.
I
But
had a similar thing happened with my thesis. I think it was definitely better the second time.
But a disk crash?
No, like when I had to redo my thesis because my computer got stolen. It was definitely better the second
That's better.
time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and the other thing, like with computers, this has happened to me a lot with things crashing. But what I've learned is usually it's faster to do it the second time.
Yeah.
So you don't lose all the time you put into the first time. The sort of extra time is just the time it takes you to replicate it, and it is usually better. But yeah, so you have to be prepared for shipwrecks. You know, that's just part of the deal. One of the things I love about all those novels about the during the Napoleonic Wars and stuff, and all the British, you know, like Horatio Hornblower and Patrick O'Brien, his Captain Aubrey series. If you've read, probably none of you read any of those things, but I read anything that has print. These ships, when they get shipwrecked, they have a ship's carpenter. They have extra wood and extra masts and things on board, and they just sit there, becalmed, unable to go anywhere, starving to death, everybody getting scurvy, and they repair the ship until they can sail it again. So I think that's you know, you have to be that resilient.
No, I have one
Yes.
question,
Mhm.
not directly related to this. How does it also read out the field work, like, because we're talking about methods, so.
Yes.
See, I'm interested in ethnography, so.
Yes.
And particularly back in Balmer, so if I'm gonna go do that, how does it play in the timeline of the program?
So we, I'll talk about, well, actually, no, now I should talk about this now. So you can all apply for travel grants to do field work. And so the summers are typically when people go and do field work. But somebody, is it Velda? Isn't Velda in Singapore right now?
Yeah, Belta's doing her fieldwork right now in Singapore. Evan just got back from a year Fulbright doing his fieldwork in China, so there's like other grants. But generally, yeah, some people do like multiple, like Jessica has done like 3 summers in a row or something like that. We'll
Yeah.
do a year, we'll do a fall.
So, and you can certainly apply, like NSF has special student fellowships that you can apply for to do field work. We're trying to get more funding here on campus as well that students could apply for. they need to, spend more than just a summer. And so I think Esbelda's doing a timeout, isn't she? Of the,
Yeah, I don't know what you guys technically call it, because as far as I know, I just kind of put a pause
yeah, I
on your
think it's-
funding and everything
yeah.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a time, yeah, you have to petition the graduate school to do a timeout semester, which means you're not registered for classes during that semester. It's more complicated if you're an international student, but I think you're not an international student, right?
Well, I'm only a permanent resident, but probably maybe I'm a citizen by then, so.
Yeah, but you're not an you're not on an
Yeah, I'm not
F1
an
visa.
yeah, no.
Yeah, so then you can just, you take a timeout, and then that semester doesn't count as one of your 10 semesters.
Oh, okay,
funding.
so it will not take out the time for me to take classes and stuff like that, right?
Hmm?
Oh, so
I'm sorry, I just
sorry.
didn't quite understand
So
the question.
if the timeout will allow me to, how do you say, keep the length of the PhD program without me losing any.
Yes, it doesn't count.
Okay.
Yeah, the graduate school won't count it. When
Oh.
they'll give you the extra semester before they start sending you the letter saying this is your 7th year.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
But then that also means that I'll have to have a private funding for that because since I'm not an enrolled student in that semester.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
Velda is probably, doesn't she have family
I
in
think she's just
Singapore?
living at home. She is on,
Yeah,
I think she's on
she's
F1
on
anyway. I think she's living at home. So
Yeah, so you can get, if F1 students can also get the timeout, but they have to leave the country during the timeout. So Ashwini Baja was one of my international students. She got a Dodd Fellowship from Germany to work with Miriam Butt at Konstanz University. So she took a time out from her studies here and was able to go do that. And then she had to, I think, go to the embassy and get her F1 renewed or something on her way back to the country. But yeah, but I think it's much easier for F1 students. Well, not much easier. I think F1 students can only take timeouts if they're leaving the country. They can't take a timeout and stay in Boulder.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then, also on that topic, 'cause I'm very interested in doing fieldwork as well. You apply for the travel grants through the graduate school, right? Not through the linguistics department?
There's both.
Oh.
And ICS also has travel grants. So you want to use every possible resource that you can.
Can you apply for both and receive both? Or-
Yeah. So you have to think about like how many trips you want to make, and if you want to, use like the department for one, and ICS for one, and the graduate school for one kind of thing. And there are also there are little like, God, what's it called? Actually, I'm supposed to know. I should know this for this afternoon. This is during the lunch break. I'm going to be preparing my resource slides. It's SS something. It's a social science thing that you can apply for, where you can apply for like up to $5,000 for a graduate student research project. And I had a student do that and get the funding. He used the money to pay annotators to do data annotation for his dissertation. He wasn't doing field work, but depending on what kind of field work you're doing and whether or not you've already got a travel grant, I think you could get additional funds that way. So the university is, it does have low tuition. It's also always perennially financially strapped. So there's not deep pockets around, but there are resources available that and you have to kind of put a little extra effort into writing the little proposals and things like that, to get the funding. But they do want you all to succeed.
Are there like restricted areas for the travel grants?
Oh, not that I know of. I don't think they would be any different than whatever the U.S. government is.
Okay.
Like there's right now, they've just,
Because I know there's restrictions for NSF grants. I mean, I'm primarily interested in going to South America, so I don't know what that would decide.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be a problem
But
for you.
I was just curious.
but I think the government just instituted a travel ban to, was it Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I just was talking to Zygmunt about his research when we went for the interviews, and he was just talking about how he had to like reorient because he can't go to
I know.
Africa.
Yeah, he can't go to North Africa anymore, where he's used to, he went every summer for
Yeah.
decades. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, yeah. Although he does, I think, last I heard, and I don't know if this is still true, but that he had established enough of a base there that there were people there who were continuing to work, and he was still in contact with them. They were setting up online resources so that they could
Yeah.
continue to collaborate.
And he
But
said-
it's a lot harder.
Yeah, it's just like he can't even fly some of them here. Because, anyway.
Yeah,
Actually,
no,
yeah, that's like the same like maybe issue for me, because that's why I was kind of thinking just to keep my permanent residence here and keep my mommy's passport over there. But that's not a problem from the U.S. side to visit mama. But if I have American passport, they have no fees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For it. So I would like probably keep my mommy's passport to do the fee work over there.
so you can, yeah, I guess as long as you have a green card.
Yeah.
Because my
But
husband.
then I can only stay there for 6 months.
Right.
That's the maximum I have to
Yeah.
come back to the U.S.
Yeah, but that's probably,
Yeah, I
you
think
probably
that's a
would do
good
that
amount of time.
anyway. If you, to keep your, you know,
Yeah.
the Ph.D. program going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Latin American Studies Consortium. Oh, that's It's a lot, and they have a lot of money. I got $76 last semester for this tiny little project. But then they have some pretty dissertation ones that are like $5,000, and it has to be before. Do you know what this?
What's that one?
Oh, the Latin American Studies Consortium.
Oh, they have
Set
some.
on it, they have the Tinker grants, which are
Oh,
pretty
okay.
dissertation, and they have
Okay.
a good amount of money for.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I think last year, like 6 people got like $5,000.
Yeah. And I think the Center for Indigenous Languages
Cecil has money for stuff too.
has some money too. Yeah. So yeah, you have to kind of scrounge, but it is doable.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, it's like an okay time if you're interested in language documentation and revitalization as opposed to like 10 years past.
Yeah. Well, there's the NEH has a fund
Yeah.
and NSF has a fund, and you know, so and basically you write the proposal. It's never a waste of time to write a proposal, even if the place you first submit it doesn't fund it, because once you've got some kind of skeleton of a proposal, then it's much easier
Yeah.
to rewrite it and sort of tinker with it to position it for some other thing. And you just, the secret to getting funding, and I speak as a very well-funded person, is persistence. You just keep resubmitting that same
Yeah.
proposal. If it's something you really want to do, you just resubmit it over and over again until you get it funded. You don't give up. Don't be discouraged. Everybody gets rejected. Everybody gets rejected a lot. And that's true for publications, that's true for funding. It's just, getting a paper rejected, getting a proposal rejected does not mean that you can't cut it, that you're inadequate, that you're never going to be successful. It just means, okay, what did the reviewers say? How can I improve it? Let's do it again.
Oh, yeah. It's my third year in the PhD, and it's all about redoing it.
Yeah.
And try it again.
Yeah, well, same thing with the experiments and your first results and everything. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes repeating it, it takes learning from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And then, why didn't this work this time? How can I fix that? How can I change the stimuli? How can I change the methodology? How can what did I, did I have the right subjects? Did I have everything? So here, very appropriate. If what you're doing was easy, it would have already been done, okay? By definition, you're trying to do something hard that nobody's done before, it's not gonna be easy. So don't get discouraged, okay? Everything is gonna go wrong, okay? This is why you have to be really passionate about it. You have to really care, or you will get just, you'll be like, why am I wasting my life doing, spending time on this trivial problem when I can be out there making money and having fun?
Everybody is hiking and biking, going to parties.
Yes,
and
right, exactly. So that's the other thing I tell people. If there is anything you can think of that you would rather be doing with your life than being in graduate school, leave graduate school and go do it. You should only be in graduate school if it is really for you the most exciting thing you can think of? The most fun thing you can think of? I'm serious about that. But yes, persistence. Persistence, persistence, persistence. It's like they say about real estate, what's the most important factor about buying a house? Location, location, location. What's the most important characteristic for a successful graduate student, for a successful academic? Persistence, persistence, persistence. Okay, so you have fellow students. Are they your compatriots? Or are they your competitors? So one of the things I like about this department, there are departments, and actually this was another reason why I left psychology. It wasn't just the experimental methodology. This was the University of Texas Psychology Department in, believe it or not, 1972, okay, when I started the Ph.D. program there. And they were one of the top 10 in the country. They had a fabulous set of Ph.D. students, these great group of students. And they pitted us against each other. They put us all in the same statistics class, and they were trying to fail as many people in the class as they could. They played mind games with us. Math was something that had always been one of my strengths, and I remember sitting there at the first statistics test shaking. And then I'm like, Martha, this is a math test. You can do this. You know, but I had to, like, it was really hard because they had, like, frightened us so much. And they had made us feel like, you know, ooh, if that person makes a higher grade than I do, then I'm the one who's going to get kicked out of the program, and they're going to be the one that gets to stay. So one of the things I like about this department is we really bend over backwards to try to not do that. Because you guys, for one thing, this is your network. You will know each other the rest of your lives, the rest of your professional careers, no matter what routes you take. You will continue to be good friends and good resources, and you know, just rely on each other. And especially now in this program, because you're taking the same courses, somebody's going to get sick, somebody's going to have to go home for family reasons, you're going to miss classes, you're going to want to be able to borrow somebody else's notes, find out what happened in that class. You're going to need a dissertation support group like the practicum and ICS, where you take turns presenting your research, and you get other people to critique your presentations and tell you how to improve them. And then there's just all the, you know, the sort of camaraderie and morale building and everything else. So we hope that we are fostering an environment where you all feel like you're compatriots and not competitors. If you ever feel like that's not true, please let us know. If you feel like there's something that we're doing that's interfering with that, let us know. And your advisor, your scary, scary advisor, is not your parent, is not, you know, perfect, is only human. The main thing your advisor should be able to help you with is the literature, pointing you to the right literature, helping you formulate your questions, and sort of knowing who else has been looking at those same questions, and sort of, you know, what are tractable questions, what are not tractable questions. One of the things I do the most as an external examiner with other people's students is help them narrow down what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is too broad and too hard, and they need to make it more structured and more straightforward and simpler. And give you critical feedback. And sometimes, and this is something, and hopefully encourage you when you need encouraging. But, so my advisor for my dissertation, one time I said to him, something I'll never forgive you about is you never gave me any forgive you for is you never gave me any moral support. And he said, why should I ever encourage you until you'd proven to me that you could do something? Okay? So we don't want to be, hopefully none of us are advisors like that. Someday when you're all finished, I'll tell you the rest of my dissertation story. It was definitely one of those horror stories. But your advisor will also sometimes be wrong. Okay, we'll give you negative feedback that's not just flat, not right. So you always have to use your own judgment and not get too discouraged if there's been a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. Wait, what is, I did have something else I was gonna say about that. Yeah, no, it's gone. Is there anything else on the slide?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, that's kind of always listen to your advisor, because, you know, they do have a lot of knowledge and experience. But in the end, it's your research, it's your decision. Okay, so, and then here we go. You finally get some decent results. Okay, and you're so excited about it. And you go around telling everybody, and you tell them something like, you know, you know, the improvement of the, well, okay, I'll have to use a computer science example, but the F1 score is 2% higher than the F1 score before. And they're like, what? What's an F1 score? F1 score for what? What was the experiment? And why are you doing the experiment? Why does that experiment tell us anything that we care about? Okay, so this is where, you know, you've gotten so focused on getting, you know, finally, you know, having, you know, spent the last 2 years on this set of experiments, finally getting the results, some results that show you something, you know, but now you've got to tie that back to that big picture so that people can understand what you're talking about and why it's important. And that's where, again, having some kind of dissertation support group, doing practice talks, doing term projects, presenting things in classes. That's why all of that's so important. And I think that's, yeah, so that's pretty much, I think we've sort of said all of this. I will talk more about, in the resources part this afternoon after lunch, about sort of the places to apply for grants. So actually, yeah, I should write down
Latin American Studies Consortium.
Latin American Studies Consortium.
LASC.
LASC.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, okay.
And that one specifically is called the Tinker Grant.
Tinker, like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, like Tinker.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it George Tinker, I think, who founded it? They never saw that.
Okay, thanks.
It's so easy to put pretty pictures on.
So, any other questions? So have I scared you all to death?
I'm pretty excited.
Good, great. Oh, one other thing I want to say, this is really important, especially for the PhD students. Publish. Submit papers to conferences. Start with, you know, the ones here on campus. There are graduate student workshops and things like that. Start with those. And then there are regional meetings. Berkeley has the Berkeley Linguistics Society. It's a very well-known one. And just work your way up you should all be submitting things to the LSA, the annual linguistics conference, by your 3rd year. Do this, start doing that as soon as possible. All of your first submissions will get rejected. Be prepared for that. That's part of the process. But just keep submitting them, because by the time you're defending your dissertation, you want to be presenting it internationally at conferences. That's the goal. Because what's the point of finding out this new thing if you're not communicating it, if you're not telling people about it? I'm done.
I did want to tell everybody, if anybody ever needs help with grant proposals, that was my job for the past
Oh, wow.
3 years. I worked in the development office at the Art Museum and Film at Berkeley, and that was also my job when I was a student. I was a core study student in the department, so
Wow.
I wrote narrative portions of grant proposals for. In the past year, I switched more to donor stewardship, which is not fun for me.
Yeah.
But I like doing grants. So if anybody ever needs editing help or ideas or
we should probably do a proposal writing workshop at some point. I have the second half of this talk that talks more about sort of results and getting published and writing proposals and things like that at a kind of a fairly high level. But then if you could come in with some more specifics about the narrative and stuff like that.
And I have experience writing for private grants and also for the big ones like the
Yeah.
NEH. And then we apply only to NEH and NEA at that museum, but I do have experience with NSF grants as well from my when I went to Peru. It was on an NSF grant, so
Yeah, yeah.
and had to like write like a mid-year evaluation on my research.
NSF grants, especially in linguistics, because they have so little funding, they routinely get rejected the first year round. And then you resubmit, and they're much more likely to get funded the second year. Because when you submit your first proposal, they have a bunch of proposals from the previous year that they rejected that have all been revised and resubmitted according to their criteria and that they're trying to, to fund. But, so again, if you're thinking you're gonna need, a larger field study grant, then you'll be able to cobble together from what is available on campus and really want some NSF funding. Submit it a year before you have to, the first time, so that you can then resubmit it.
I have a question, but it's like a personal question. I'm looking for housing for a dorm here. And where can I find that answer?
Housing is really bad in Boulder, and because we've increased the number of freshmen, we're taking more undergraduates now, and the freshmen all have to stay on campus. That's like a university rule, and they've taken over some of the campus housing that used to be for graduate students and postdocs for the freshmen, and they still have freshmen waitlisted. So there's a huge housing crunch. If you you can send me an email and I can forward it to several, like certainly Ling grads and Ling faculty, and I can also send it to computer science.
All right.
And just so you would be happy with a room and a shared.
Anything.
Yeah.
Listen to this. What happened to me while I was in Brazil? I reached the Craigslist, and then I found a nice apartment there, and I sent $550 to guarantee it. But right now it looks really fake. I have a friend here.
What did you?
I have a contract and everything from this person, but right now the person wants more money. But then I have a friend and he took me to the place, and we saw the place. It looks like really fancy, a fancy place. So the rent is doesn't match to the place that it is, and like something is illegal. Something is wrong about it.
Yeah. So there are.
I'm really sad. I think I was all set with rent and everything, but then when I got here, everything just like
It doesn't look. Yeah, that's that. So you're on a J1, presumably.
Yeah.
Visiting.
Yeah.
So have you talked to the people at ISS about that? ISSS, the International Scholars and Students, and didn't you have to do an orientation with them?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't. No.
You haven't been over to.
This is my second day.
I know, but they haven't emailed you about coming over to meet with them?
Oh no, I have that next Tuesday.
Okay.
Yes, I have that.
Because there are some legal resources
all right.
on campus, and
All
I think
right.
they would be able to tell you who you could talk to.
So basically, except for Craigslist, which is sometimes unreliable, you have two ways. So one is a graduate student family housing. You can apply for that.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of people
like a
waiting in the
cheaper
line
list,
for the apartment. Another way is that there's a website called a Rafis
That's
list.
how I found mine.
Yeah,
So
this is
it's
much better.
It's university verified rather than.
Yeah.
It's like Craigslist just for university people.
All right.
And
Yeah.
one thing.
What is the
that
name?
you-
Rafis?
Rafis, the name of the
The
It's
mascot.
the
RALPHIE.
And actually, I had a lot of success too. If you want to talk about it, I just moved here from the Bay Area.
I'm sorry. I just.
No, it's
I just
important.
changed it.
Yeah, important
We're
info.
officially done. So you guys are free now until, I guess the campus tour is supposed to start.
Yeah.
But